This podcast shines light on strong and talented women who excel and persevere in life while bathing in abundant self-love. So if you're ready to keep it real, level up in all your inner work, creative business, and community impact, then you've come to the right place because we provide you with content that helps your soul glow and your mind grow. Thank you for pressing play. Let's dive in.
Hey community, this is STUK founder Brett and Tazeen today. And we are here with another podcast episode. And today we really wanted to talk to you guys about relationships and getting unstuck from relationships, but we really wanted to talk to you guys about it within the context of the environments that we live in and come from, because I think that sometimes stuckness or, getting stuck in the mud, getting stuck where you are often depends on, the environment of which you come from. And within our organization and within our team, we really focus on three countries. We focus on, America. We focus on Mumbai. We're focused on, Ghana, within, Africa. But within each of these locations that we focus on, the epiphany that I came to was that they are all, they're all capitalist places, and they were all initially colonized by the British. So we all have very similar experiences, even though we are so far apart. And we have like similar stories and ways that we have found to unstick ourselves and to pull up ourselves out the mud because of these similar experiences. So today we kind of wanted to dive into that conversation, and we wanted to discuss being unstuck, which actually means in Sanskrit, unstuck actually is anahata, which is the heart chakra. And so when you become unstuck, I think you really do open up that heart chakra. So, with this episode, let's open up our heart chakra. Let's expand, let's explore, and let's get into this conversation. So grab some tea, grab some coffee, get cozy, and let's dive in. Hey, Tazeen.
Hi guys, how are you? It is so wonderful to, come on here and sit with Brett and just talk about things that we experience in our lives and that we're sure that you guys do too. And as much as this is about, like we said, like we're focusing on the Black community, the brown community, but then again, generally there are so many people out there, right? We're like, this world is huge. We have experiences. Our experiences are all diverse, and some are they're unique in some ways or similar in some ways. But because we're focusing on these two communities today, I suppose that there are many of you who will feel included, related, some not so much. Then again, take it in a way that this is also, as a matter of fact, a very in a wide sense, like what we're talking about today. These are things that we experience in our lives, no matter who you are or, what you do. So even if I am in India, if I'm an Indian living in India, if I'm an Indian living in America, if, whatever it is, our experiences are different because we come from different places, we're settled in different places. So there are a lot of complications there. But just like Brett mentioned, that because these places were previously colonized, right? So that could possibly have a different impact on these specific communities, which could definitely be true because if you think about it, right, when at the time, like I can talk about Indian history, right? I do not have knowledge about the other histories as much, so I will definitely not be talking about that because I know a little bit about Indian history, so I can talk about that. And it's just how when they came, it was always them putting themselves above everybody else. So when you think about that, they instilled this sort of a slave mentality in the people, because the people were constantly, made to work against their will, made to, do things against their will, pay up taxes and, their tenfold value and all these things, and, just exploited and tortured and all these things. So these are very deep rooted things that have been passing down from generation to generation. And even things like colorism and all those things that are prevalent in India, it's a huge topic, and all of these things do stem in a sense from there. Of course, there are definitely issues, cannot blame it entirely on them, but there are definitely issues that were triggered by those events, because we were colonized for like 200 years. India was a colony for like 200 years. So if that's not enough to do a little bit of damage, then I don't know what is. And I guess just that mentality that people have now instilled in themselves, right? It's very difficult to break from that. From those, like we say, some call it generational trauma, some call it, whatever it is, there are different names for different things that you experience, but it is not easy to be able to break from that. And I'm sure like the Black community too have had like experiences like that, definitely, because like when Brett and we get to talking, there's so many similar experiences that we share in a way, even though we are from like two different places. Like there are so many things that we get along on so well. So I think that it's kind of like that. Like Brett, if you can tell us about like how these things have impacted, like how you've seen it impact like the people around you, like the Black community in general.
No, absolutely. I think that that's so profound that like we have this like connection, such a strong connection due to, the our similar experiences that bring us together. And for the longest time, I had never met, Medina or Serafina, who are our Fly Girl ambassadors in Ghana. And when I connected with them in person, I realized that there was so many similarities also between the Black American experience and the, Black African experience as well. I think for like the biggest, or I guess the example that I'll open up with, is that when I first went to Ghana, and traveled to Ghana for STUK, that's when I met Medina for the first time, our Fly Girl ambassador. And she met me in, Accra, Ghana, when I flew in. And during this time, Medina's like star power was just like rising and out of this world, because she had just went viral for doing this handshake video. You guys might have seen it on our when we had an Instagram, or I think it's actually it is on our TikTok now, and on our YouTube. But she went viral because she did this amazing handshake video with her class, and she incorporated custom handshakes, incorporating self-love within the classroom, etc. So all over the world, it went viral, and she was having interviews, news stations, etc. interview her. So right when I touched down to Ghana, the very first thing I did was we immediately went to the news station. We immediately went to Ghana News. And it was interesting because it was Medina and her dad who picked me up. And I feel like they are my Ghanaian family. They're another like soul connection, soul tribe to me. And and it was so interesting because it was like when I got there, I had never met her before or anything like that, but it was like I already knew them somehow, and it was like I had already known her, like I had always been her sister somehow. And it was so interesting because her and her dad's relationship was very similar to me and my own father's relationship. Like her dad was very like, I mean, he's all for her for her star power rising, I should say, like, and my dad is too, technically, like, he wants the best for me. He does want my uniqueness to shine. He does want my intelligence to shine. He does want me to have notoriety for what it is that I do. But sometimes I think unconsciously, due to the fear that capitalism instills in all of us, he even can block that sometimes, whether it's with harsh words, whether that's like, oh, my art won't sell, or oh, this is going to be scary, or oh my gosh, you shouldn't go to Ghana because all these people are going to like scam you and blah blah blah, when that's not the case and not true. And whatever it is. And so when I was there with her, I realized it was like her dad was there and very supportive of her, but a lot of times it was like he was kind of being overprotective in a lot of ways, and was trying to control a lot of things that she did as well. And I think that, but at the same time, because I think fathers sometimes can be their daughter's biggest advocate sometimes, especially if we come from if we have mother wounds, if we have issues with mothers who have jealousy issues or whatever it is. So anyway, I just understood Medina's story, understood what she was going through with her dad. I understood how they were moving and what was happening. And then it just really made me reflect on my own life. And then currently, now within my own life, I am, entering a similar season in my life. I'm entering a season of, again, showing artwork, of, again, preparing for my third solo art show. And really just like, and my star power is rising like hers was. And I think that with that, my family also had the same, things come up. And in these past couple like weeks, since my last solo podcast episode, which I explained, things had calmed down. I thought everything was, in alignment. It seemed like it. But then I started getting attacked again, by family, just like weird interference with my art, with my flow, with what I'm doing, with what I'm building, with what I'm creating, just like playing little games to, break up my focus, playing little, games to get in the way of my creative flow. And I think that that's what can happen a lot of times, because if you think about it, and if you think about colonization and capitalism and what really happened, America experienced over 400 years of, just like slavery and just brutality and injustice. So that's deeply ingrained within our systems. And then if you think about it in the context of Ghana, that's where the slave trade happened. That was the center of the slave trade, the Gold Coast. And that's where, slaves were shipped out to come to America. So, in Ghana, a lot of people sold off their own people, sold off their own slaves and to America, so they have this mentality of like, white is right, America is great, lighter you are, the better it is, like. And I think that just whatever capitalist country you come from has that, can have that mentality. I know India does as well. And it can seep into our creativity, creative flows, our mentality, our mind, heart, and souls, honestly, if we don't check it. Because I think when we have self-love and we have that faith and in higher power, in the universe, in God, and whatever it is for you, then it's like, then I think those are the only things that really help you be able to break through the illusion that is racism, the mental illness that is racism, capitalism, and all of that. And the fact that it does really interfere with the creative process in general. And that was a long mouthful. So let me throw it back to Tazeen.
but you're right, like you just said, about your creativity and about interference and everything. Because when you think about it, there are, like, of course, throughout the world, art and other forms of art, like whatever it is, even if it's like dancing or painting or any other forms of art, theater and all those things, they're not as widely accepted in all cultures across the world. Like some of them do appreciate it. For some, it's not as, viewed as important. Like I know in my culture, like if you're talking about all these creative things, right, that is not really given much value. Focus is on more, you know, on different things. If it's like if it's law, if it's medicine, if it's, all these different things, that is where people's minds are more, that's where the minds go. That is where people are more, they feel more comfortable being in rather than being in creative places. And I know that for a lot of people, like I've seen a lot of children who have showed great artistic talents, but their talents have been, shut down by the parents, saying that the kid is going to get too distracted with this and not focus on the studies. And so, and the grades are going to fall, and, the kid is going to be nothing when he grows up. So then we really got to shut this down. And then they just take everything away. And now the kid has like no place to like express himself or herself artistically, creatively, and they're just left with, just being, like we say, here we are talking a lot about like capitalism and being a slave of capitalism and everything. Sure, it might sound a little, it might sound relatable, it might sound off to a lot of people, but at the end of the day, we're not necessarily saying don't earn a living and don't do this. It's not that. Do it. Of course, you need to do what you need to do. You got to work 9 to 5. Do that. I respect it. I respect the hustle. You got to get your degree, got to get your qualification. I respect all of that. Getting an education, very important. Doing all of the, getting a degree, very important. Getting a job, yes. Establish your business, yes. Do all those things. I want to do all those things. I want other people to do all those things. Grow, get your money, live the life you want to live. I get that. But also, don't shut creativity out. If you can earn a living through creativity, I just feel like that should also be respected the same way as other professions are respected.
Absolutely. It was so interesting also when I was traveling in Ghana, and I was in Ghana for almost a month. And it was so interesting because when I was painting the mural at Diamond State Academy, which is our partner school there, I didn't have art supplies. I didn't have paint. And so I was like, at first, I asked them before I came, like, should I bring my own stuff? What should I do? And next time I'll definitely bring my own stuff. But they were like, no, we'll figure it out when you get here. But when I was there were no art stores. And I remember talking to the art teacher at Diamond State Academy, whose name is Samuel. He's actually in our mini documentary, if you guys want to check that out. But he is a photographer, and he is the most talented photographer, one of the most talented photographers I've ever seen. And my heart was just like breaking for him because he didn't have a phone, he didn't have a camera, he didn't have any the tools to express his gift. And it was really messing with me. And he was telling me how there were no art stores in Kumasi, Ghana, where the school was, and the only art stores were in the main capital of Ghana, which is Accra, and which is much more like Americanized. And so we had to go to basically like the mall and find kind of like a Staples kind of store. It's in America. I don't know if you guys have context for that, but it's kind of just like it was like a big department store, but with a bunch of stuff. And I just had to find whatever little paints I could find to paint a whole wall with, because there were literally no resources. And Samuel was telling me that they just don't respect, the arts there in Ghana. And sometimes even to the fact that they don't respect the art of play, even. He said that there were like not a lot of, like play structures, jungle gyms, things like that, because a lot of times the culture is work, 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 hustle, 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 and go, 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 move, move, move. And, in that hustle and bustle, just the art of being, the art of creativity, the art of play just kind of gets, left at the wayside. And so that was just such a struggle, not being able to really find any, the creative resources I really needed to do the work that I wanted to do. And it made me think about the parallel of that, which is that artists often, Black and brown artists are often not allowed to create in the households in which they grow up in, like because of this mentality, because often our parents take on this capitalistic mentality and have some kind of fear that they don't even understand about, like, creating, about whether it's like dangerous or whether it's, anti-system, or whether it just like can't make any money, so then it's complete waste of time anyway, and why would you even try? Me personally, I've had like art supply. Well, I should say this is not my dad never did this, but it was all the other side of the family, really, who would steal art supplies, take, what I was using to create, use it as punishment, like confiscate my tools that I use for my work as basically like ways to punish me. And,
Oh my
and
God.
I know. And that really relates to that's direct is a direct correlation to slavery. That's a direct correlation to what happened during colonization, because a lot of the tactics used were mental, and a lot of slavery was mental, and it was a lot about, like, not allowing the people that they colonized, the people that they enslaved, to express joy, to express art, to just have that space to be in peace and to create in peace. And so a lot of people, a lot of parents, unconsciously create this terror for their own artist children by not giving them the peace, freedom or space or respect, honestly, to just simply create. And it's such a toxic loop and such a toxic cycle. And so many people are unaware that they are even doing it and inflicting it upon their own children. And as an artist, whether it is drawing, painting, photography, singing, dancing, whatever, to be separated from your art, to have somebody pull you apart from your art, feels like a kind of inner death. It feels like your heart is kind of being stepped on. It feels like you can't really breathe. It's kind of like that phrase, I can't breathe. But a lot of people, if you're not an artist, if like normies, as I call them, don't really see it like that. And so I think that it is really like imperatives, like within just the structure of our societies and cultures, that we really acknowledge this and we don't keep perpetuating this same kind of like abuse, because that's what I call that artist abuse. I really think that that's what that is, when people are inflicting that and are unconscious of it. And and I searched for a phrase for it for the longest time, and that's really what it is. And it's because, but that suppression of expression, that just blocks on full freedom of expression, is what capitalism breeds. It's what slavery, colonization bred. So I think we really just need to all wake up to that and be conscious of that. Whether, you're doing this to your artist friends, whether you're kind of like, asking them questions like, hey, like, wait, how do you make your money? How are you ever going to make your money when you know that they're selling art, when you know that they're doing their thing, when you know that they have an amazing website, when you know that they have offerings, like, like it's time we change our mentality and step into freedom of expression and really just become unstuck, but like at a root level, which requires us really, kind of going back in a way and exploring ways in which, our lineages really just like exploited freedom of expression. So, yeah.
Exactly. Because like you spoke about friends, it's not just these kinds of like suppression and everything. It's not just among families. It also happens in workplaces. It also happens amongst colleagues and, you know, amongst friends and everything, where sometimes people who are artists and who are taking the more like unconventional route, sort of according to society, right? They're being either directly shamed or indirectly shamed, or made to feel smaller, or made to feel guilty about the things that they're doing. You know, there are questions about if they're earning enough, if they're able to sustain such a living,
Right.
what they are. And there are questions like, but what are you really going to do with your life? But what are you really
But
planning
what's
to do
your
in your
plan?
future? Exactly. What is really your plan? It's never like, they find it hard to believe, like the friends or the acquaintances, they find it hard to believe that this is something that the person is actually making into like a profession. Like this is something that creativity is something that they want to live to make, want to make a living off of. They find that very difficult to accept. And I feel like the only way to like fix all these problems, whether it is with your family or with your friends, or even if you're working and then on the side you're like planning to build your creative career, and then you have to deal with all these problems at work because, you know, nobody really believes in you. I feel
Right.
like the only solution to all of these things, to getting unstuck from these kind of relationships, is just respect, which is very simple if you think about it, right? If it's a word that is being like thrown out a lot here and there. I wonder if people really understand the meaning of it anymore, really do realize how important and how valuable that is, and how much power respect holds. Because even if you don't like something, say you don't like something that someone is doing, or you're not agreeing with something that someone is doing, that is okay, because you're entitled to your personal opinions and your views. So you necessarily will not do the same thing that this person is doing, but at least respect what they're doing, is what I feel. I do not care if I'm doing something, and if my friend or somebody else doesn't like what I'm doing and they
Right.
don't agree with it, and it's not something that they would do for themselves. I get that, because they're not me, I'm not them. They have their own opinion, they've had their own life, their own experiences, based off of which they're making their decisions, and I've had mine based off of which I'm making my decisions. But if they don't respect the decision that I'm making, that is where I will feel hurt. That is where everybody else feels hurt, because that basic respect is not there. You don't have to like something, but you just got to at least respect it. Okay, you don't need to understand it. You don't need to do it for yourself, but respect how someone else is making a living. Respect how much effort someone else is putting into their work, into their life, and into the things that they're doing. It's not that difficult. Respect really is not that difficult. You just have to see this person, see them as a human being, see and acknowledge their efforts, right? And see and understand, you know, why they want to do this particular thing, and just, you know, respect that. It's not hard. But like, I feel like respect isn't that hard. And at the same time, hatred also is not that hard. But
Right.
people just choose to hate more than they choose to respect. I'm not telling you to love something, right? As an opposite to hate. I'm not telling you just because you hate someone doing art, I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. You have to start loving this person for doing their art. You have to start loving their art. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to go into the direct opposite, right? I'm just telling you to not place, you know, don't place love instead of hate. Just place respect in place of, you know, in front of hate, in place of hate, right? Just do that much. That is the bare minimum. And just this bare minimum, I really believe from the bottom of my heart, it can fix a lot of the damages. It can fix a lot of the relationships. It can save a lot of the friendships. And whatever relationship troubles that you're going through with whoever it is, whether it's your parents or your children or whoever it is, just that basic respect, I feel like that is what is missing nowadays. And if there's anything else that can actually help, it is communication. That you really need to be able to communicate with someone, because one, here's the thing, when you're going to talk about your feelings, they're going to talk about there is if you two can maturely, as adults, right, as mature individuals, talk about your feelings, put your problems in front of each other, have a discussion. Sure, you might argue a little bit, but, you know, not letting it turn into a fight or whatever. When you communicate and when you understand, and then, like I said, place respect in that communication, that is going to help wonders. And secondly, if not, that communication could possibly show you that person's true colors. So even if you're not able to, you know, mend their relationship, communication could actually save you from a relationship where you're like, you know, this is what this person really is. I need to walk away now.
Exactly.
Like there's nothing else for me here. So I feel like if people just take care of these two things, if they just keep these two things in mind, you don't have to go like, if you're new to like self-love and loving everybody and, you know, all of that, if because there are people out there that are like, this is way too positive, you know, nobody lives like this, and there's so many people skeptical of that. Exactly, right? So okay, if you're new to that, fine. Don't have to love everybody. Don't even have to love yourself. Don't do it right now. You don't have to do it right now. Take baby steps. Start with respect and start with communication. These are simple things. You don't have to be like an overly positive person just to be able to do these things. These are very basic things. These are at the base of your human behavior. So don't have to indulge in like the advanced skills as you think, you know, that self-love is. But at least you can begin by just simply respecting another person and seeing another person as a human being. It's the simplest thing. It is the most basic thing, but it is also one of the most helpful things that you can do to actually help save your relationship and also open your mind. So, and this will give you perspective for sure, because when you're actually listening to someone, you'll be able to like see things from their perspective and be like, okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was being mean. You know, this person is genuine. This person is not fooling around. They're serious. And, you know, I was in the wrong, and just accepting that you were wrong and giving the relationship that kind of a chance to actually become something good where you guys can really be comfortable around each other and really root for each other, because I feel like that's something that is missing. People are not rooting for each other anymore. I think that needs to change.
Yes, I completely agree. And, you know, I was thinking one other thing that would be helpful is and which this podcast promotes is really active listening, you know? And I think that when we can really be conscious and really actively listen to what one another are saying, then, you know, like, and that is a part of communication, you know? But I think that so much change can really occur. And, you know, and so much more space for one another to just like be, you know, just for us to just be our unique selves. And, you know, one of our you know, philosophies is to do you. And I think that when we can actively listen and engage respect and communicate, then we allow more space and freedom for you know, one another to like just be our true selves and to just do you, as I'm always saying, just do you, boo. But for me, man, it's just like all of this, it's just been such a so true as like a personal experience of my life, because for these I'd say past like 2 pandemic years, because I don't know, for whatever reason 2020 was just pretty smooth sailing for me, but for 2021 and 2022 I just had issues just due to other people. And so, and within that time though, I had really taken the responsibility within my own career to really hone in on my focus and focus on my oil painting skills, focus on my nonprofit building skills, focus on my community building skills. And I've been doing like a lot of work behind the scenes. Obviously, within that 2-year period is how this podcast came to be, you know? And so within these last 2 years, though, so many crazy things have happened with my friends and family. Because, before the pandemic, like I was always around other people constantly, and I was always kind of like, not, I wouldn't say always, I say catering to other people because self-love has always been a part of my life, but more so than now, I would say. And I always knew that, as a full-time artist, just like diving into art and diving into my craft was always going to be a part of my path and journey in life and career. And art is a very, solitary you know, practice. It's a very solitary craft, and it requires a lot of just alone time. And I think that people who have not really tapped into their self-love journey, self-awareness, they just don't really understand what's happening when you're finally, taking that time away to really just focus on yourself, focus on your craft, focus on your art, focus on, your healing journey, your self-love journey, your wellness journey, whatever it is, which is what I've been doing for the past, 2 years. But while I'd been doing that, and while I'd really been, working on bulking up this nonprofit and really just providing us with backbones so that we can no longer get shoved from side to side and get holes poked in our nonprofit saying that we aren't legitimate, because now we have this podcast is a complete resource of everything and like all that we encompass. But yeah, it's just like people started talking behind my back. I opened up this podcast basically with speaking about mental health, as we are mental health advocates, and speaking about my, view on mental health and my journey of healing myself through anxiety and depression. Um, and it's funny because in all of that, nobody really actively listened. And instead of it, my friends and family turned on me and tried to say that I was basically like crazy and had mental health issues, instead of actually listening to the fact that I had to move through and heal myself through anxiety and depression, because I was always, alone and didn't have help, and nobody really kind of, acknowledged my inner state growing up. So I had to take responsibility for it on my own, and in a lot of cases take responsibility for my own family's healing. So for 2 years, it's like, because my friends and family were speaking about me behind my back, and I guess they thought I didn't know this, you know, which is interesting because I absolutely knew, and that's why I had been, doing all this behind the scenes work, so that it can never be tested. But it was just fascinating because it was just nonstop chit chat about me, slander about my name, slander about my work. And, for artists, when you're gossiping and talking about artists, that's so dangerous, because an artist's name is their work. An artist's name is how they sell their work. An artist's name is their legacy. Our brand, like it's our story is how we move and push our work and what we create and cultivate. So it created a lot of blocks in my workflow, a lot of blocks in, just how I had been able to move and output work. And so I had to change a lot of the ways that I was moving, and a lot of, and I had to end a lot of relationships with people who, were smiling in my face and saying that they were, all supportive of everything that I've been doing. And, if you look at my work, I've illustrated my friends for years. That's how I'm not a capitalist artist. Like I started it's just, I do it because I love it, and I would illustrate my friends, and I would always, like, every time I had parties and events and whatever, like my art would be the centerpiece of all of those events. And I would have, like, I've had step and repeat banners at parties that I've made for people. And I just love making portraits of people that I love. I find that I can just more beautifully create portraits when I actually love those people. And it's just was really heartbreaking in my journey to find that those people that I, really had been, investing in along the way, and had really, and had given them art. They have art hanging in their homes, just to find out that they'd just been speaking about me behind my back, for years. And it just
Wow.
diminishing that which I am, diminishing, the progress of my work, where I'm going with what I'm actually doing. But anyway, and then it started progressively coming out more and more, because, it's like always knew that they were saying these things, but it's like quite another thing when it starts becoming more and more public, and people start testing it more and more. So, then I had to speak out about that. And I'll link in the show notes the blog piece that I wrote on that. But yeah, for me, it's been really a struggle, just because of people who aren't really like tapped in with their own mental health journeys, and their own self-awareness journeys. They're just not conscious of what they're even doing. And I love, like, there's this quote that, I'm only the villain in your story when you don't know yourself. And I find that to be so true with, like, this journey, and how kind of, people attacked me along my own journey, because it's like, you're only doing that because you don't really know who you are, and you don't really understand what's even going on here, and you don't really even understand, like, what I'm doing here. you know
It's kind of like projecting your own insecurities onto somebody else. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, exactly. And, my family did it, most, just like the most, I should say. And so in that process, like, I was working at a artist compound for years and years, and it was a beautiful place, so many different artists, and it had a community of its own. But during the pandemic, I had to move out of it. And during that transition, my family behind my back, my mom really, ended up putting all of my work into a storage unit far away from where I was living. And then it was a pandemic. I had no way to really transport it, move huge, giant canvases. So my art collection has been in storage for like 2 years, and I just recently
Wow.
covered it. Yeah. So, and then in that process of it being locked up and my heart literally being separated from my body, which felt like a ripping kind of feeling, but I had to, in that process, just really sustain my nervous system, sustain my calm, sustain my mental health, to be able to upkeep all the output and work I still had to do,
Mhm.
it was just an insane process. And it's just such a blessing to, like, have it free now, and to have my art, out, and to actually be working towards another show and everything. But these situations of basically entrapping and isolating artists, gossiping about artists, ruining their names, slandering their careers, this happens so often, and it happens so much more prevalently in the Black and Brown communities than people realize. And I should say, even in the Latinx communities, like, for sure. I know very, like, that friends of mine have had, issues where they have had to, their families won't help them with their mental illness. Like, that was my situation for sure. And then
Mhm.
you're kind of like, well, what do I even do? Like, how am I going to afford
Mhm.
this therapist,
Yeah.
whatever? And it's crazy, because a lot of the times this will be in families who are so, like, completely well off that they absolutely could afford any therapy that you need, or any medication that you need to heal. But due to the social stigma of mental health, due to the social stigma of becoming an artist, they just won't, you know? Um,
Exactly.
and it's just like this perpetual cycle that keeps going on and on. I hear my friends talk about it. I hear, and I don't want them to experience it anymore either. I don't want them to have, this, it's because it's very painful, it's very excruciating, and it takes a lot of mental fortitude to be able to lift yourself up out of it again and again and again, which is what it takes, because a lot of times Black and brown families will shove you back down and shove you back down and kick you when you're down or when you're up, really. because they don't understand that, like, the basic element of respect that all artists deserve, and this basic element of respect that in non-capitalistic, non-colonized countries, non-colonized places, especially I think Japan is a great example of this. um where artists are just valued and revered like celebrity, like any other celebrity. And I think that this change just really has to happen in our culture. And I think that just this artist abuse really just it must stop. We've evolved in so many other ways in our society, yet people are still attacking artists, yet people are still attacking mental health advocates. And then you make us not be able to move and really do the work that we're put here to do on this world and really create the social change that we've been, divinely called to do and called to lead with love. So yeah, that was a whole little tangent.
Exactly, because no, for sure. And you've had to put in a lot of work, right? You've had to like dig deep into yourself.
14 years.
Yes. Oh my God. You had to like meditate and do all these things. And that is what it takes to heal from these kind of situations. Like we spoke about what others need to do for you, what we need to do for each other. But I think that so much of this work is what you need to do for yourself, what the kind of lifestyle that you are gonna live, the kind of things that you will incorporate into your daily routines to actually be able to withstand all of these external pressures and obstacles and all these things. Because here's the thing, right? They are gonna keep coming. The change that we want, the change that we need, it's gonna take some time to come. And in the meantime, we have to make sure that we are standing our ground. And for that, there is a lot of internal work that we need to do. On in this organization, on this podcast, we often talk about meditation, we often talk about journaling, we talk about all these different things, taking up creative tasks like painting and drawing and all these things, because we understand that these are things that are necessary. These things are like it's sort of a way for you to release all of your stress and to release all of the negativity and to actually be able to gain that clarity and focus back. Physical movements, whether you're exercising, whether you're doing yoga, you're taking a walk, all of these things, you need to have some of these outlets in your like daily routine to actually be able to remain mentally sane to withstand all of these pressures. And whether you are suffering from a mental illness or even if you're not, these things are important just so that you can maintain the overall well-being, overall mental well-being. Because without it, if you're just diving into work and coming back home and then just working again, and then you have all these people around you who are constantly trying to put you down, you don't really have a defense against all of that. You won't really have a shield to protect yourself with. And you need that. You need to be able to protect yourself. You need to be able to build up things that will protect you, because here's the thing, no one else is going to do it for you.
Right.
No one else is going to protect you. No one else is going to pull you out from situations. Everyone must have realized at some point in time that there's nobody who's coming to save you. Right. You've got to do it yourself. Whenever we were in like situations, you probably realized that, wait, I got myself through this, right? You may have support from your friends, you may have support from your families, but at the end of the day, the main work and the main pulling yourself out from that circumstance, that is something you have had to do for yourself. So because you need to, it's kind of like I feel like these things are kind of like training, like how, in movies they undergo like physical training and then they're ready to get into battle and then they fight and able to defend themselves. This kind of feels like, mental training for that. It really feels like you're mentally training yourself to be at peace, to calm your emotions, to control. And when feelings, all of those negative feelings do come, you know how to process it. You know that it will come. You know that it will, you'll have have to feel whatever it is, whether you're feeling depressed or anxious or sad, and then it will eventually go away. And, all of these things, it's kind of like preparation for when times are going to get stressful or when you are in stressful times. So that really helps to, get you through that. Because, like Brett said, a lot of the families, they can afford therapy, but they don't. And a lot of the families actually cannot afford therapy. So either ways, therapy, whether it is because of finances or whether it is because of the social stigma, it is not that easily accessible to a lot of people. I know, especially in my community, it is not.
Right.
And so it's understandable. I cannot just, we cannot just go out there and tell everybody, put your child in therapy or put yourself in therapy and everyone's going to listen and they're going to do it. It's not going to happen. A lot of the times this podcast is a resource, like these things, like a blog post or like a website, they're resources where people who have never really spoken about their struggles and their mental illnesses come on here. And then they're like, okay, there are other people struggling and here they are sharing their experiences. Here they are telling us what might help us. And so they're like, why not try this? Why not try that? So if you who is listening to this podcast right now, if you're someone like that who has not been able to talk to anybody openly about your struggles, or even if you did and you were, shut down and you're not taken seriously or not understood, just know that there are so many people like you who are going through these difficult situations. Like Brett just opened up about her struggle, like her artistic abuse that she had to go through. And so many of us go through so many similar situations. And here we are talking about the things that can actually help you. So if you're someone and you're listening, you can actually try all of these things out. You can try to do all these things. We have more episodes where we talk in detail about a lot of the things, and it can really help you. So if there are people who are actually not able to make it to therapy, artists who are not able to make it to therapy, just know that there are other resources out there too. Of course, not as, perfect and as efficient as trained therapists for sure, because they have dedicated years of studies, to their field and to understanding how the human mind works. Definitely not even close to that. We're definitely not even close to that. But what we do, at least sharing our experiences and learning from each other's experiences, I think can help tons, because
and coloring for cause.
Coloring for a cause. It's a big thing that we do. We even held like an event where we got people to like color. And Brett, you recently did an event at a children's birthday party, and that was so adorable. There was like there were like little kids, and they were all coloring, and having a good time. And that is such a good way to just release all the stress and also bring out your inner creativity. You don't really have to be good at it. It's not that you have to be like a very good artist to like color and to like paint. You don't have to. If you're having fun, just have fun with it.
Exactly. And, I think that these activities, really why we have them as a part of our nonprofit is also to break the chain of capitalism, to break the chain of slave mentality, to break the chain of this abuse, to break the chain of artist abuse. And so that's why we also have like so many resources on our website. Our website is the hub. We have meditations, so many different meditations, affirmations, hypnosis, all these kind of things that are tools and resources that you can use to reprogram your mind from these conditioned, these conditioned ways of being. And, it does require a lot of inner work. It does require a lot of practice. There is no easy way around it. There is no shortcut, like I think it was my college roomie Kelly said in one of our previous episodes, which is like one of our self-love talks that you can go listen to. She was saying, how like affirmations, they're not just like some one and done little thing. I think a lot of people think like, let me just read these affirmations one day and boom, my life is going to be different. But no, it doesn't really work like that. It's like an everyday thing you got to do. It's just like exercising. It's just like, I do yoga every day. It's just like, exercising that. It's just like, maybe drawing every day. Drawing's a muscle. Like, it's the same thing. Like, one of our STUK illustrations is if you need a hero, just look in the mirror And that is so true. There is no savior coming for you. There's no one coming to save you but you. And that's extremely hard sometimes. There have been times when I just don't want to scrape myself off of the pavement after like my family kicks me down after I just like announced something that I thought was freaking great or something, like that or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like you just have to every time because you love yourself. Because if you don't got you, then who got you?
Right.
And and it's just like you have to be your biggest advocate. You have to be your biggest fan. You have to be, the biggest fighter in your corner. Otherwise you won't get out the ring. Otherwise you won't be able to pull yourself out of the hole and become unstuck and become strong, talented, united, and knowledgeable. And so it's just like we just would love for you guys to, be able to break these stigmas with us and to be able to break these chains with us, whether it's breaking the chains of generational curses, generational trauma, breaking the chains of capitalism, of mental slavery, of whatever it is. We are here to stand our ground. We are here to break these barriers, and we are here to create more space for women in general of all ethnicities, backgrounds, and nationalities, but predominantly for women of color, because we go through some wild experiences, some wild shit that a lot of people do not understand. And and this is a safe space where we are okay and to talk about these things, where we can voice our opinions, where we can, express these hurts and not feel like we're going to be just kicked down again. And this is a space where not only women support women, but artists support artists, and where we just, we want everybody to win. We want everybody to rise to the top. And we want to spread love, no matter, who it is, what it is, and we are here for truth. We are here for truth and justice and for love and for just continuously spreading that. So I hope that, this really like just resonates with you guys. And I really do hope that, in our own small way, that this can really create some social change and some social shift. Because I like to say, as Malcolm X says, I'm for the truth no matter who tells it. I'm for justice no matter who it is against. I am a human being first and foremost. As such, I'm for whoever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole. And, that's definitely something that our nonprofit lives by.
Exactly. So just know that we are rooting for you. We're rooting for each other. We all got each other's backs, and it is going to be a long journey. It might get hard to maneuver through your obstacles, to get through relationships that are draining you out, but it is not impossible, and you can do it. It will take work. It will take time. It will take patience, but it is very much possible. And just know that we 100% believe in you, even if it takes, trials, errors, you fall back, you get back up. Just know that we are constantly believing in you, and that we know that you believe in us, and that we all can get through this for sure.
Yes, you are limitless. You are powerful. You are beautiful. You are magnificent. You are miraculous. The fact that you are alive and breathing today means that you are, in fact, a miracle. So I hope that you, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what you are doing, I hope you do it with love, and I hope you express it fully with love and freedom and truth and abundance. And do you, booze?
We love you so very much. And yeah, we will see you again very soon in another episode.
Bye.
Hi everyone, hope you liked that episode. We are all about preaching self-love and empowering women and girls around the world. Support us in our journey as we provide art supplies and many more resources to girls in Ghana through our 2 programs, the
Fly Girl Initiative, and Little Heartists. We are also working on hosting more Color for a Cause events, as well as our No Filter school tours. Your help will enable this organization to work on bettering the lives of people around the world. For more information, visit our website www.stuckdesigns.org.